Welcome to tonight's Zoom gathering for the Southern Wisconsin chapter of American Pilgrims on the Camino. I'm so excited to introduce tonight's presenter. She's originally a Midwest girl. She's from Minnesota, but has resided in Flagstaff, Arizona for over 27 years and is a member of the Flagstaff chapter there. Many of you may already know her from her highly acclaimed Unstoppable Stacey travel blog, or perhaps you've used one of her spiritual and walking guides for the Camino in France or Spain, or walking in New Mexico or the Grand Canyon. Or maybe, like me, you heard that she was writing a book about pilgrimage in Wisconsin. I was inspired by her Zoom presentation through the Boston chapter and thought our chapter would want to know more about the building and support of this adventure called the Wisconsin Way. So if you have any questions, please use the chat and we will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. So welcome, writer, traveler, foodie, and spiritual adventurer, Stacey Wittig.
Well, thank you so much for that welcome, Lisa, and thank you, Anne, too, for having me here. It was really exciting to talk to you before we started to find out that Lisa lived in Flagstaff, and so we have shared small towns together. And Anne and I have also lived in Duluth, Minnesota, so we've shared that town together. So that's kind of a cool thing. Anyway, I just wanted to also mention and welcome Ellen Grabo and Jeff Hughes. They're here with me. And both of those two have done the whole Wisconsin Way. So they have walked all the way to La Crosse. They've walked through Madison. I am right now writing a guidebook for the first 140 miles. So that's why I'm going to need their help for your questions at the end. I'm going to share my screen now. So the Wisconsin Way, what we're going to talk about tonight is really what is the Wisconsin Way? Where is the Wisconsin Way? How is it like the Camino de Santiago? And then, of course, how is it different? We're going to talk a little bit about the trail systems and the pathways that it overlays. We're going to talk about the types of accommodation and also the stages. So let me see why this isn't shifting. Okay, so what is the Wisconsin Way? And doesn't that picture look a little bit like the Camino? Currently, I'm gonna have to move you guys over so I can read my presentation. Oops. I can move you that way. I can see some of your faces, so I'm moving you over. So currently, the Wisconsin Way is a 140-mile pilgrimage route in eastern Wisconsin that's loosely based on the Camino de Santiago. You'll start outside of Green Bay at the only Marian apparition site in the US approved by the Catholic Church. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with a Marian apparition site, that's a place where Mary, the mother of Jesus, appeared to people in historic times. The end of this portion is at Holy Hill near Milwaukee. Now, so many of us Camino pilgrims are familiar with the Spanish poet Antonio Machado, and he wrote, "The way is made by walking." And what he was really talking about was that inner pilgrimage, what's happening on the inside as we start walking. But I would really like to use that phrase for the Wisconsin Way, because this trail is really in its infancy. And I believe that as more people walk, the Wisconsin Way will have more infrastructure And of course, it will eventually extend 400 miles to La Crosse, Wisconsin. And as I mentioned before, pilgrims, Ellen and Jeff, they're here with us today. They have walked the whole section, including the Holy Hill to La Crosse section. So Wisconsin Way beginnings. Father Andrew Kurz is the founder and steward of the Wisconsin Way. I met him at the 2016 American Pilgrims gathering outside of St. Louis, Missouri at Our Lady of the Snows. And if any of you have not attended one of those annual gatherings, I highly recommend it. That's how I've met Anne and a lot of other pilgrims throughout the country. There were other people there that Father Kurz brought with him. And Ellen, were you one of the people that was with him? I almost think that you were. Father Moses. They came to tell us about the Wisconsin Way. And then, of course, once I couldn't go to Europe to do my basically annual pilgrimage, I thought, well, this would be a good time to contact that guy. What was his name again? And wasn't it called the Wisconsin Way? So he really has an amazing, memorable story of how he was inspired to kind of formulate this whole thing. But I will let him tell you that story in my book. So after he was inspired to do this, he was able to walk a portion of the Camino during a trip that he did to Europe and visited Santiago. He's very on fire for the Camino and for the Wisconsin Way. He actually leads small groups 3 times per year along this way. And he just told me last week that his 3rd trip in September is already filled. So there's a lot of interest in this particular pilgrimage route. I did it myself in October as a solo pilgrim, but I was able to meet up with one of his groups to walk with them on the final stage up to Holy Hill. The slogan for his pilgrimages are "Pray with Mary, walk with Jesus." And of course, you don't have to be Catholic to do the Wisconsin Way. I am a Protestant, or you could just be secular. Everyone is welcome on the Wisconsin Way. So where is it? You know, when I was talking to the Boston group, I had to tell them that that big blue blob was Lake Michigan. So I don't think I need to tell you folks that. But I'm going to move you guys again. The Wisconsin Way is in eastern Wisconsin. It starts outside of Green Bay at the National Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help. And then, like we said before, it ends at Holy Hill near Milwaukee. On this map, you can see some of the sites on the way down. What I found interesting when I walked it was there's really 3 sections of glaciated landscape. First, you're walking through the farm section, so lots of rolling hills up and down, beautiful. When I walked there, it was still green, and the farmsteads were amazing. As you get into, you can see the park, the little green area there. You get into the forest section, it's highly wooded, and much more glaciation is happening there. Many of you probably know that 2 lobes of that glacier, as it was receding, crashed together there and dumped and left these landforms that, I was going to say people, but really glaciologists from all over the world come to study these landforms. It's simply amazing. And then finally, the 3rd section, the Holy Hill section, hiking, climbing up to those twin spires. So some of you who have done the Frances, you might say, this sounds kind of familiar, because many pilgrims on that route will say, that's really divided into 3 parts. You have the physical part at the beginning where you're really fighting with your body to get going as a pilgrim, and you're going over the Pyrenees and through some mountainous areas. And then the landscape changes and you're on the flat meseta, and that a lot of times is an emotional time. It's a time of wrestling maybe with yourself, or interior things are happening. And then the final section, when you're making your way through green Galatia and you come into this beautiful spiritual sacred presence. So that's one of the ways that this pilgrimage is very similar. And that leads us to, of course, what are the similarities? How is the Wisconsin Way similar to Camino de Santiago? And again, if you look at some of these pictures, you might think that some of these pictures were taken on the Camino de Santiago. You can see there's a lot of camaraderie going on in these pictures. So number one, I talked about the incredible scenery, that's similar. But holy hotspots, I was very surprised to find that there were so many different sacred places that were important to people over the years that have been preserved. So similar to the Camino de Santiago, you'll see larger churches like we mentioned, but then also the small country churches and even little roadside shrines that you'll find along the way. Another similarity is really that local food and wine. And you all know that Wisconsin is the dairyland of the United States. So of course you're going to have great cheese and great creams and milk products. Of course, you'll also find the sausage shop along the way, the cheese shops along the way. And one day you end your day at a winery. So you're actually walking through some vineyards, and the wine that's made over there on the other side of, on this side, I guess should say, of Lake Michigan is very good wine. I kind of mentioned a little bit the European ethnic heritage, but when you start the Wisconsin Way in Green Bay, you're really starting in an area that was first settled by French-speaking people. And you'll see some of that at the National Shrine. Many farmers came in the mid-1800s from Belgium, and they settled those farmlands. And you'll see some of their food and sacred traditions along the way. Then about a day's walk further, I ended up in some Bohemian areas where the churches were built by people that from what we now call Czechoslovakia. So some great sacred traditions they brought with them that I really hadn't seen before. So it was real similar to being in Europe when you're discovering new things. Walking a couple days further, then you're seeing architecture from German immigrants and German people and seeing some of their traditions. Some of these European traditions include processionals and pilgrimage. So that's kind of cool to see as well. So what I'm trying to paint the picture here of is a real progression of scenery and holy hotspots. And that progression rises to a crescendo when you see those twin spires of Holy Hill welcome you to one of Wisconsin's tallest peaks. So what are the holy hotspots? We talked about the National Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help. Then the next place you'll come across is the Curran Spirituality Center. It was built by a retired priest on his grandparents' farm, and it's built as an open air worship area. So I've been told by people that have brought youth groups there and other people that it's really a moving place of prayer and contemplation. These folks have had a hard time getting the youth out, and I certainly found that to be true when I walked into the Curran Spirituality Center and laid my pack down, and I looked up, and there was this really tall crucifix, and I looked up at it, and I could see the blue skies behind, and I had that same kind of feeling that I had at Cruz de Ferro. So I almost thought, wow, here's a little Cruz de Ferro right here in Wisconsin. Some really nice surprises along the Wisconsin Way. There's also a small chapel there, so you can go into the chapel and spend some time there as well. So it was really hard for me to pick up my pack and leave that place, like I said, But the Carmelite monastery is not really far away from there. So I walked a short distance and I could see off on a hill these 3 roofs rising. The Carmelite monastery wasn't built long ago, so it's modern architecture, but it's really been influenced by a lot of the churches and chapels from Europe. And you can feel that a lot of stonework there. It felt very European to me. Now, one of the things, you probably won't talk or see any of the sisters or the nuns that live here because they are cloistered. But they open their chapel, their sanctuary, for silent prayer. So you are welcome to go in and spend time in that sanctuary, which is a beautiful place. It's quiet, obviously. And the stained glass there was done by an artisan from Italy. And it's modern stained glass. It really paints the picture of Carmelite history because there's several Carmelite saints in the glass. So that was another special place. About a day or so later, you'll end your day at the Holy Resurrection Monastery in St. Nazianz. And this is another beautiful holy hotspot that you can actually spend the night in. So maybe some of you know Father Moses from our Facebook group or other forums throughout the Camino world. But he's always taking pictures of the food that he's making. And he was a culinary trained chef before he became a monk. And he has brought that part of what he does well to this monastery. So not only can you stay there, but you can also eat there. It's a beautiful place. The next holy hotspot is Steinfeld Chapel. And that is as you're going into the forested area. So it's a beautiful little chapel. It's got a great story as well in the forest. St. Matthias Church, I was very surprised to see a church on the Kettle Moraine State Forest. I thought, haven't seen too many churches on government land before. But what I learned when I was researching for the book was that there was a German immigrants from a town in the mountains. They came and settled here and mostly had dairy farms in that area. Well, the St. Matthias Church is the only thing that's left of their settlement because their land was either donated or bought for a nature preserve that has since become this Kettle Moraine State Forest, where you will see so many of these geologic features that I was talking about. And then finally, the Holy Hill Basilica. You can see the picture of that. I'm in the upper left-hand corner. But one of the things I wanted to say as a pilgrim is, we find our own holy hotspots along the way. And you might be walking along and see a reflection in a kettle pond, or a bird flies by. You have your own moment of holiness. And that's why I included that picture in the lower left too. This was one of my spots that I really felt a holy presence just walking along in the forest. So the Wisconsin Way gives you lots of opportunities for that as well. So then, how is the Wisconsin Way different than the Camino de Santiago? Well, first and foremost, you'll find very few accommodations on the Wisconsin Way. And I really want to stress that. And throughout this presentation, you'll be probably sick of me stressing that. Very few accommodations. There are no yellow arrows or route following markers to guide the way. So as the Wisconsin Way overlays onto the Ice Age Trail, the Ice Age Trail does have markers to follow. And you want to know what color they are? They're yellow. So, but besides that, the Wisconsin Way itself does not have any markers. Consequently, you need to plan your walking routes to holy hotspots in relation to where you find places to overnight. So your route is going to change depending on where you find places and where you reserve places. You need to reserve places well ahead of time. But fortunately, the Wisconsin countryside is rich with trail systems. And also, I'm working on a guidebook that will help you make those kind of plans. So what are the trails and the pathways? And what is really the accessibility in these places? Well, the Wisconsin Way overlays existing wooded paths, country roads, and scenic byways to connect the holy hotspots. And I've shown some of those road surfaces here on these photos. So the Ice Age National Scenic Trail, it's becoming, I think, very popular during this COVID time. I've been seeing a lot about the trail. Well, the Wisconsin Way overlays a portion of that. And when it does, it's mostly uneven surfaces through Kettle Moraine State Forest. And you can see a picture of my feet walking on the trail. So I'm not off the trail here. I'm actually on the trail, but I'm walking over glacial till. There's also the Eisenbahn Trail, which is asphalt and crushed stone, and the Anape State Trail, asphalt and crushed stone. Although when I walked it on the Wisconsin Way, I was only on crushed stone. And you can see a picture of that on the left in the middle. So that 2-lane, so to speak, trail. There's a bicyclist coming towards me. And I love looking at these pictures. I've looked at them so much and now I still smile. So the Stations of the Cross, there's a pathway that goes up to Holy Hill, and that is wide and it's made of asphalt. It's pedestrian only. But I would really suggest that you check with local land managers at these different parks and systems for information about accessibility if that's a concern for you. So types of accommodation, that's always a concern for us, right? So given that you're walking across expansive rural areas, Airbnbs and hotel rooms are few and far between. Because of spread out and infrequent accommodation, you need to plan your walking routes to holy hotspots in relation to where you find places to spend the night. And again, I'll just say we need to make reservations for that as well. I should probably just take these pictures away from here. Oops. So the first type of accommodation would be a backpack and a tent. And I'm going to do that. I'm leaving on May 22nd. And so for the first time, I will be carrying a bedroll, a tent, and a small stove so I can camp along the way. And when I went and did the Wisconsin Way in October, I didn't carry any of that camping equipment. So I've been out training for a heavier pack. This was sharing with the ladies before we started. Another way you could do it is with an RV camper. So a small group could actually share driving the support vehicle. And when I left Our Lady of Good Help in October, there were 3 women that I met that were doing just that. And so they were doing the Wisconsin Way with the RV camper. They would get up in the morning after they'd slept in their camper. All 3 would head down the trail. Halfway down the trail, one would turn around and walk back to the camper and then drive it ahead to where they had all decided they were going to spend the night. So that was a great way to get through those stages that really have very little accommodation. Now, there are Airbnbs, but there's not many of them. So reserve as soon as possible, maybe even months in advance. I started reserving Airbnbs 45 days, maybe a little bit longer out. But a lot of them were already booked. And because there's so few Airbnbs, there's a lot of demand for them. I didn't realize that I would be walking during the peak of the fall colors. So I was competing with leaf peepers for those Airbnb rooms. But I would just any time of year, I would say reserve as soon as possible, as you possibly can. Hotels, there are a few in some of the larger towns. And of course, we have the one monastery that you can stay in at Holy Hill or Holy Resurrection Monastery. The suggested donation of $60 per person includes dinner and breakfast. And I'd also like you to know that they not only welcome pilgrims, but they welcome travelers and people that might want to go on a spiritual retreat or not, or maybe even a group. So that's something to think about besides the pilgrimage. Also, you could stay in churches. If you feel comfortable, you could call the parish offices of Catholic churches or the church offices of your denomination of choice and ask to stay at the rectory or with church members. And so this is one of the things that I'm talking about when I say the way is made by walking, because as more people walk and these churches start to get more requests, then they're going to realize that this would be a great way to serve with hospitality. So I think it's really fun to be at this point with the Wisconsin Way as it grows up and matures and you see the growth. Now, what about albergues? Well, currently, you'll find only one traditional pilgrim hostel on the Wisconsin Way, and it's the brand new Wisconsin Way albergue. And there's a picture of that in the upper left corner there. And when I stayed there, I was so surprised at how much I thought, this is just like Spain. How did he hit this so well? So this is Father Kerr's albergue. It sleeps 12 in comfortable bunk beds and offers a full kitchen and showers. The picture on the right is at the monastery. The one in the lower center is a campground. So that mill, that historic mill, is actually at Devil River Campground. And then the Victorian bed is one of the Airbnbs that I stayed in. So we pilgrims, we always want to know, what are the stages? How much do we have to walk? So on this particular section, you could walk just like the Camino as far or as short as you wanted to. But in the book, we've laid out 11 stages. They average 13 miles per stage. In the farm section, you have 5 stages, as well as in the forest section. And then the final stage, Holy Hill stage, there's 1. So again, I'm going to remind you that you have to plan your route according to where you find your accommodation and reserve in advance. So you might want to take a screenshot of this or maybe a picture of it. This is all my contact information. Right now, you could plan your pilgrimage at bit.ly/Wisconsin Way. That's my website, my Unstoppable Stacey travel website. And I have over, 10, 12 pages, one for each stage, talking about how you could do the Wisconsin Way and how I would do it differently than I did it in October. But it documents my October pilgrimage. I am a Camino author. My author page can be found at bit.ly/Stacey Wittig. I've written several spiritual and walking guides and have also mapped for gut hook guides. You might know them as Atlas guides. So I've mapped the Camino del Norte for them. And I also wrote the Camino Primitivo guidebook for the Confraternity of St. James, along with Johnny Walker. I'm looking forward to my upcoming book. I'm having so much fun researching it. And that book will be called Spiritual and Walking Guide, The Wisconsin Way. And you can shoot me an email at wittigwriter@gmail.com and ask me to put you on the list for the early release. And I would love to do that. So one of the things that we want to talk about in the question and answers, and this is why Ellen and Jeff are with us now, is how can I help? So you guys are smack in the middle of that second portion of the Wisconsin Way. And some of the things that I thought about, and I talked to Father Kurz about this, is number one, you could become a Camino angel. You could sign up to be a host, and that would be at the Modern Catholic Pilgrim / Hospitality Network. And the Modern Catholic Pilgrim is an organization out of Indianapolis that has come together with the group at Wisconsin Way to help develop some of that infrastructure so that pilgrims can find places to stay, or maybe a ride if they need a ride. But this is one place where you could sign up and really be a help. You could host a pilgrim in your home, or like I said, give rides. Another thing that you could do, how you could help, is you could talk to your church or other organization about being hosts. So maybe you can't be a host all the time, but maybe you know someone in your organization that could. What Father Kerr suggested was you could establish an albergue. So if you're one of those people that always thought, oh, I want to go to Spain and open an albergue, well, you don't have to go that far. You could open one right there in Madison. And of course, walk. So now I'd really like to open it up to questions and just maybe some discussion. So maybe I could start out the questions by asking Jeff, so what was it like when you walked through the Madison area? What did you find? How could maybe people there help you out as a pilgrim? Is the space bar working for you? Oh, there you go. Oh,
there. Yes, we walked through Madison late August, early September. I don't remember exactly when, but it was the end of the summer, and yeah, it was great. We stopped, I think, in Cottage Grove was a stopping point for us, and then from there we went all the way through Madison, which was a lot of road walking, and ended up in the Dells area. Madison was great because it had, one of the bigger cities. So, food was plentiful, places to stay were plentiful. One of the better places on the whole route to refresh and reload, if you will.
What trail did you take through Madison?
So we came in on the bike trail, the rail to trail from Milwaukee, and I don't think we were on a trail. So we kind of road walked through Madison, and we ended up on the northeast side. The name escapes me, but it wasn't Middleton. It was next to Middleton, just a little bit farther out.
Okay.
So it was, again, mostly road walking. I think that has since changed. Again, Ellen and her twin sister, Eileen, who is very, very involved in the Wisconsin Way, did a little reconning, and I think they've changed the route a bit through Madison to, and Ellen, please jump in, go through, so you're more into Middleton and heading up to Sauk that way?
So we took the Glacial Drumlin Trail through Cottage Grove, I believe it is, and then went straight through Madison and went to the west side of Madison through, there's a county park that is just on the west side of Madison where we camped that night, and then up through Indian Lake State Park, and then up toward Baraboo from there. So that's how we did it. And eventually you connect up with the 400 trail, and then the Elroy Sparta Trail and the La Crosse Trail. And so the second half, you're primarily what we call the second half, which is Holy Hill to La Crosse. You're walking along the Glacial Drumlin Trail, and so all the bike trails that are there. And like Jeff said, Madison is so wonderful. We even spent a half a day going to the garden there, the botanical gardens, and just, kind of taking that little bit of a respite, getting some really good food, and, walking through and seeing the people and enjoying the culture of what Madison is. And so that was really a lot of fun doing it that way. So when my sister and I did it, we didn't walk, we actually biked. So we've done it. I've done it both ways. I've walked the Wisconsin way and I've biked the Wisconsin way. The second half of it. The first half I've only walked. So as far as places to stay, like I said, when we biked, we did all camping. Actually, we didn't. That's not true. We did stay, I think, at 2 bed and breakfasts along the El Rey Sparta Trail, because it's really nice and people are so welcoming. And of course, along the El Rey Sparta Trail, there's plenty of bed and breakfasts that people, want you to come and stay at and support. But when Jeff and I walked it, we were staying either at parishes or we would stay at a hotel or 2. Along the way, there were plenty of opportunities for that as well. But having more and more people host is really nice. I know the parishes that we've contacted, many of them have been so welcoming of pilgrims and of people coming by and, hearing their stories, seeing their churches, seeing their little spiritual hotspots. There is so much richness, along the way that is, it's just really amazing. It's so life-changing. Absolutely. Any
Where could we find the map for that part?
Stacey?
So Jill, when you say that part, which part are you talking about?
From the Basilica to La Crosse, I guess, the second part, right? I guess.
Right. That would be kind of the second part. And I think that's something that, we'll have to work with Stacey to develop a map, of that second part. Like Jeff said, Eileen and I went a little bit of a different route when we biked than we did when we walked. And I think that is going to be normal. I mean, just like with the Camino de Santiago, there are a number of different ways to get there. It would be the same with the Wisconsin way, but trying to establish all of that is, I think, why we're all here tonight, is to, move from, we've kind of mapped out and done the first half of the Wisconsin way since 2013. So we've done it year after year after year and established a number of different ways to do it. And I think now, having all of you getting the word out and letting we're coming through your town and, you all have experience with this. And so trying to, spread the word and get people walking. And I think just all working together and saying, okay, how'd you go? Where'd you go? Where do I start with this? I think that's what it's all about.
Ellen, did you need to make reservations for when you biked it and camped?
Yeah, we did. Obviously we had to call different campgrounds on our way as we were going. We kind of had an idea of how far we thought we might be able to get every night. And that's kind of what you decide is, am I doing 13 miles or on the bike, am I doing 30 miles a day? And then mapping it out from there and just calling ahead. So the week before we called ahead, made a few reservations at campgrounds that are just off of the different bike trails. Obviously on the El Rey Sparta, there's campgrounds right on it. The bed and breakfasts that we stayed at, though, those were like, we stopped at a little shop in Elroy and, along the way to get an ice cream. And the lady's like, oh yeah, and I have a bed and breakfast up here, and we're like, you got room tonight? We were going to go camp. And she's like, yeah, come on over. I'll meet you over there. And so some of that is just very organic. It just happens as you go. And that is the beauty of, you know, walking and talking. People see your backpack, or people see you on, you know, what we had our bikes, and our bikes were loaded, and there's like, what are you doing? You know, people want to know, and they're curious, and they're very, very accommodating and really, you know, hospitable that way. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have to chime in here too and say, I really found the people along the first part of the way to be so hospitable and so nice. You know, sometimes you're a little worried walking through a place that, you know, these farms are acres and acres and acres. So you're not seeing very many people, but they're very curious about what I was doing and very excited about it. So yeah, I encourage you all to pick up your pack and do the Wisconsin way.
Yeah, I agree, especially on the first half. Like I said, we've done it so many times, and the number of spiritual hotspots continue to grow, because it's amazing. You know, it's just like when you watch a movie for the second time, you're like, oh, I missed that the first time. And it's the same thing as you do it again, you find new things. And as more and more parishes and little retreat centers, or more and more people see all of these pilgrims coming through, the interest and the hospitality just continues to grow and grow.
Ellen, are you also located in Wisconsin?
I live in Waukesha, yes.
Waukesha. Okay.
Mhm. And my sister Eileen, she's my twin sister, so we're identical. So she lives also in Waukesha with me, but she is at a parish in Slinger, where she is youth minister and adult faith formator. And she has a wonderful little, I forget what she calls it now, retreat center there at the parish, where she hosts pilgrims every year, multiple times. And every time Father Kurz is coming through, they will stay at her retreat center. There's facilities for, you know, sleeping, showering, and that is the night before you hit Holy Hill. So, and so many parishes are just jumping on board and saying, yeah, stay with us. Yeah, come and stay with us. And so it's becoming little albergues, not quite the traditional ones that you all are familiar with. I hope to become familiar with someday, but yeah, it is really becoming well established.
I have to tell you, I welcomed Jeff to jump in and join our chapter. You also are more than welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Love to have you. Not everybody has walked one of the Caminos yet, but you'll find a great group of like-minded people.
That's
and
awesome.
We'd love to keep learning from you.
Yeah, I would love to join. Absolutely.
I think I can get your contact info from Stacey, so I'll shoot you an email following this.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Stacey, I had a question for you. I think you said you were going to walk in later this month backpacking. Is that what you said?
Yes, I did.
So how much is your backpack weigh? I just started backpacking like this last year, and I'm curious, like for that kind of hike, and I don't know what the terrain is, but when the terrain is hillier, obviously it feels heavier. How much do you think you're going to be packing?
Well, I think that I'll be packing 24 or 25 pounds.
Okay,
Which
that's not bad.
I hope that it's going to be that low. But
Yeah.
I used to pack, like my very first Camino was in 2005, and I think I packed 35 pounds. You know,
Yeah,
I
I usually hike like 35 to 38, but I also prefer to haul my own water because I absolutely hate running out of water. Like that's one of my things I'm the most fearful about, because if you get dehydrated, everything else goes down south. So yeah, that's cool. Good luck to you. I can't wait to kind of hear how that goes.
No, thanks. Yeah, well, follow me on Facebook. I'll be posting on Facebook as I walk.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then once I get home, I'll start writing more on my blog about it too. So
Yep, I just sent you an invite actually.
oh, thank you, Sasha.
Uh-huh.
The other thing that I'll be doing is I'll be taking a manuscript for my book and walking along with that and, seeing, does this work for me?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an editing process as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an estimate when the book will be out and available?
I'm thinking probably midsummer. I hate to say that. I know it will be out this year, but I'm hoping for midsummer.
If you come to Madison, you can stay with me.
Oh, thank you, Jill.
I don't know if
Oh,
you,
thank
if you
you.
or anyone, I think it'd be really fun to host pilgrims.
Yeah,
I live near downtown, so it's kind of a fun place.
sweet. Thanks for that invitation.
So I'm located in Janesville. When you take the route from Holy Hill to La Crosse, do you go that far south or do you go?
It depends
Right,
on, do you know where the Glacial Drumlin Trail goes through Janesville?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
The Ice Age Trail does, but not that one.
Oh, okay, so not the Glacial Drumlin. Okay,
No, that ends in Cottage Grove.
okay. And Janesville is south of there then, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're almost to the Illinois border.
Okay, oh, yeah, that would not.
So does anyone have a question about another Camino? So if you have questions about, I don't know, doing Le Puy or Norte, it sounds like Anne has done Norte as well.
Oh, I was wondering if there were any other Caminos in other states.
Well, that's a great question. There is a pilgrimage route in New Mexico, and I know a few American pilgrims who have done it. It's not that popular. It's more of a religious route during Holy Week. And then, of course, there's the California Mission Caminos. So those we're all walking American Caminos now because we can't go to Europe, right? So that's becoming more popular.
So Stacey, is the walking guide that you've done for New Mexico, does that cover that pilgrimage that you're talking about?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And I have not even walked it.
Okay.
So it, again, it's a really remote place. It would be hard to get supplies. It's at altitude. So probably about the same altitude as Flagstaff. I'm at 7,000 feet. And I am also a spiritual walker, and I feel like I haven't been called there. I haven't been called to do that. Maybe with respect to the people that do it as a sacred thing. But I really hope to do it someday. So I'll call you, Lisa, when I'm doing it.
Got
'Cause I
it.
think it'd be really good for a girl's pilgrimage.
Sounds great.
You're on the list, Anne.
Stacey, have you by chance met Carol Gassenheimer? She's she's in the Flagstaff area. If she's not right in, well, is she in Sedona? Karen, you're shaking your head. She's somewhere in Sedona, Flagstaff.
Yeah, she's in Flagstaff.
Okay.
Her backyard backs up to the forest. I think on the north side of Flagstaff. But she's a Madison person that retired and moved to Flagstaff and hikes like daily.
And what's her last name? Say it again.
Gosenheimer, Gosenheimer.
Okay. And do you have her contact information? Are you friends with her on Facebook?
On Facebook, yeah.
Because that would be great if you connected us and said that we do have a chapter in Flagstaff. So
Yeah.
that would be great to have her.
Yeah, I'll let her know.
Thank you.
She's also an awesome photographer.
Ooh.
Really fabulous pictures. She's had her photographs in several of the Flagstaff travel journals.
Sweet.
Are there other questions about the Wisconsin Way for Stacey or Ellen or Jeff?
I think there's one question in the chat. Did that already get answered? Oh, yeah, okay.
Stacey, I think you had mentioned, maybe not tonight, but another time, that there is the need for people to help extend the Wisconsin Way. And maybe, Ellen, maybe that's what you were referring to, marking it between Holy Hill and La Crosse. Are there other things that we can do, that we can help out with? Is there anything we can do as a chapter?
You know, it would be really cool if you did a chapter walk or a chapter hike through one of those stages. So, you know, what Ellen was talking about, either coming into Madison or maybe leaving Madison, and maybe giving some recommendations on going through parks, because that's one of the things that I'm looking at in the first part of the Wisconsin Way, is how to best get people through an area without having to do so much road walking. So
I agree.
would think,
I think that, you know, I think that was the most difficult part to navigate, was through Madison for us, whether we were biking or walking. And I think that having your expertise, you guys know the Madison area better than obviously people who don't live there. And so getting some recommendation, doing some walks, maybe organizing some days that we do some walks, or take a look, sit down and look at the map and look at the different bike trails. I know they're continuing to develop the rails to trails, and hopefully all of that, you know, gets extended further and further, but getting some, you know, getting your input into what might be the best route through Madison. I think that would be great. And again, from Madison to the next trail as well, going north from Madison and trying to get to the 400 trail, north and west, that, you know, all of that. So yeah, I think those are areas that whatever help you guys can give us, and if you know the area so much better, for sure.
What's the 400 trail?
The 400 trail starts, it's a bike trail, and it starts in Reedsburg and goes to Elroy.
All right. And that's what we need to hook up to?
Well, that would be ideal. Yeah. I mean, that once you're on a trail, the really nice thing is you're not doing all the road walking, and some of the road walking around Madison was pretty dangerous going up, you know, whether you're going 12 or trying to take 19 over to the Ice Age Trail, and then going up through Lodi, Marsh area, that kind of thing. Or are you going along the river, which I think along the river, the Wisconsin River, we're looking at, is it Sauk Prairie there? Where there's a little bit of a bike trail there. I don't know how far it goes, but, you know, just trying to explore the different bike trails in the different communities and trying to utilize them the best we can. And didn't they just recently put a bike trail on 12? Although you're along the traffic, but it doesn't 12, is it 12 or 14?
It's along Highway 12,
Along Highway 12, okay, yeah.
but it doesn't go all the way from Madison to Sauk City. It extends from Madison. Then there's a stretch of about 7-8 miles maybe where there is no bike trail, and then the bike trail picks up again.
Okay,
So that section in the middle, one would have to get onto some county roads.
right, okay, yeah.
Ellen just wants to get to the winery.
Well, that too. Of course.
Which winery is that? Would that be Wollersheim?
Probably, yeah.
They have gorgeous grounds. That would be a really cool place to spend the night.
Right, exactly, exactly. So, and I don't know the name of that bike trail that goes through there, or if it has a name, does it, that goes through Sauk City there, or Sauk,
I don't know.
yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
not
No,
sure.
Ocean River.
And the one that goes along the river there starts in Sauk City and it reaches almost to Devil's Lake State Park,
Right,
but then it sort of ends there before it enters the park.
right.
So I've been on that whole bike trail, but I haven't tried going beyond Devil's Lake Park on it
Okay.
because it sort of stops there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's some bike trails that go up, or at least some city roads from Devil's Lake State Park into Baraboo, and that was pretty easy to navigate, but going from Baraboo to Reedsburg, that was all just county road walking and not anything established for bikes or anything like that. So that was a difficult stretch as well, and hot.
Where does the Ice Age Trail? I know the Ice Age Trail goes through Devil's Lake. Does it not go north?
It does go north, but it doesn't go the direction that we're looking to go then, because we want to ultimately go west to Our Lady Guadalupe. So we are moving away from the Ice Age Trail at that point. Yeah.
Jan, before you sign up, it's good to see you again, and glad that you're landed safely in Hoosier land. And
Thank you so much. I formerly was a member of the Wisconsin group and moved to Indianapolis. And Stacey, I heard you last night, and you know David Cook, of course, and I'm working on becoming a co-chair with him out of the Hoosier area, Indianapolis.
Good. Oh, welcome to the coordinator.
Well, I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
Good for you. That's awesome. I'm hoping to be there for the gathering in July.
That'll be super, super. Love to see you.
Yeah.
Bye now. I'm going to sign off for now.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jan.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Jan.
Bye-bye.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hi. Hey, listen, I have at any of the bike shops anywhere, you can pick up this official biking guide. And it has all the rails to trails, the entire state of Wisconsin, and how you can connect from over by Green Bay down to Holy Hill and then over all on the Glacial Drummond Trail and the 400 Trail. So that it's a great resource to help you get on some rails to trails, which is so nice to walk on. Any bike shop will have those.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ellen, do you have that book?
No, I do not have that book. Mm-mm.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that for sure.
Yeah.
Great resource.
Excellent. Yeah.
So the reason that you've got the Wisconsin Way going up to La Crosse is because of the shrine you're trying to get there. So you're trying to connect from a holy hot spot to another one. And that's why you went to La Crosse instead of going some other place in Wisconsin.
Right, that's correct. So you're looking at the three shrines, the three major shrines, and that's what the vision that Father Kurz originally had, was connecting these three shrines as a pilgrimage. Yes, spiritual pilgrimage. Yeah.
Peter, do you want to ask your question?
You're still muted, Peter.
Yeah, what I discovered was that if you're in the chat, where my cursor still was, then the space bar doesn't work for unmuting. Instead, it just creates lots of spaces in your next little chat message. But thanks for the message about telling us earlier about the space bar. I'd never heard about that before. So my question was, the priest who was mentioned who leads some walks several times per year, was that just the Green Bay to Holy Hill section, or was that a longer part of the Wisconsin Way? And also, when he organizes those walks, does he include lodging as part of it?
So he does the pilgrimage as I think a 4-night pilgrimage, and it goes from the Green Bay area to Holy Hill. And he has a van, so he'll drive his pilgrims to a trailhead and let them walk, like one of the best places to walk. And then he'll pick them up later on and, do this so that they can actually do that section, not in 11 days, but in 4.5 days. And he does arrange the lodging for that.
And Father Kurz has walked it twice from Our Lady of Good Help Green Bay to Holy Hill. He's walked it twice and then done, so many of the driving pilgrimages. He calls it an introduction. So you kind of get introduced to, and that's the whole idea of the 3 or 4 day, is that you're getting introduced to the whole thing by experiencing some different parts of the different stages that Stacey was going through. And then ultimately hoping that, you'll get the bug and you'll walk it. He's also done half of the second half. He's only gone up through to just about Devil's Lake, and then couldn't finish with Jeff and I, but had walked the first half of that part with Jeff and I. So that's where his experience comes in. And again, it has been his vision to do this. So it's been all inspired by our Lord and Our Lady.
Stacey, did you say how long the first 140 miles takes you?
So my book will divide it into 11 stages, and I walked it in 10 days the first time I did it, but a couple of the days were just way too long. So, kind of dividing it up.
And are you all doing 11 this next time too, Stacey?
Yes, so we'll do 11 days.
Right. And you have 7 going on that, right? Is that correct? Is that what we're up to? Yeah.
Yes. So it will be a caravan of 7 pilgrims.
Yes.
It should be really fun. And Ellen's sister, Eileen, is leading that group.
And Father will be involved as well. He'll be, meet us a couple of times along the way as well.
Well, unless there are other questions, this has been wonderfully informative and fun to get a glimpse and a taste of the Wisconsin Way. As long as it's so close, it's amazing that we all didn't know much about it. We did have one of our chapter hikes around Holy Hill and into the Basilica. And that was lovely. We were there in the fall, so it was a perfect time of year. But thank you to Stacey and to Ellen and to Jeff for enlightening us and giving us some good ideas. And I will make sure that everyone has your contact information, Stacey, to what's the word? Apply for your book. Get on the list for when the book comes out.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm glad that you were here, and keep up the walking. Buen Camino.
Buen Camino to you.
Thank you. Buen Camino.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.